EAGLES, Eagles.
Welcome back in, everybody, to Victory Monday here on Birds 365. That's John McMullen, the #1 Eagles beat reporter. I'm your host, Zander Krause. Give us follows on Twitter at RealZander and at JF McMullen. Appreciate everybody being here. Don't forget to hit that like button if you enjoy the show today. John, I want to ask you about Jalen Hurts. We're going to start there on this segment. You know, I was
by the way, real quick before we start, I just want it is I can confirm that Britton Covey does have a broken bone in his shoulder, so he's gonna miss some time, pretty significant time, at least, probably 4 to 6 weeks, best case scenario. But so tough break, literally, for Britton Covey. So he's going to be out for a while.
Yeah, no pun intended there. Tough break, definitely, for Britton Covey. And we'll look for the updates on Devontae and Lane. That's going to be another day or two at least, probably, with a concussion. I think the protocol is different. So John will.
Yeah, that's up to the league. That's not up to the Eagles. So.
Yeah, so John will report it, give us the update on that as soon as he gets it. But John, like I said, I want to start here on Jalen Hurts. I thought he had a bounce back game. I understand the turnovers. You know, that's definitely something he's going to have to rein in if you want to play championship football in the long run. But I thought he bounced back strong yesterday. I thought he climbed the pocket. I thought he moved the ball around. I think 8 different receivers were involved in the game. Obviously, a big game from Dallas Goedert. But I thought Jalen Hurts, man, answered the bell yesterday in a game where he needed to step up. To step up. I called on him last week. I said, when A.J. Brown's out, I don't want to rely on Jahan Dotson. I don't even want to rely on Dallas Goedert or Devontae Smith. I want my quarterback to step up. I thought he did that yesterday in a big way. It was 29 to 38 for over 300 passing yards. No touchdowns, but I thought he really made a lot of good plays yesterday. Your thoughts on Jalen Hurts and what he was able to do yesterday for the Eagles?
Yeah, I thought it was a good performance, solid performance. The turnovers are becoming an issue because it's been consistent, going into year 2. Even though if you break them down, I think one was his fault, one wasn't his fault. So maybe it's not as big as a deal, but it is a trend, and until it stops, you got to keep an eye on it. I still don't like the way this offense plays without A.J. Brown, but that's a overriding bigger thing than just Jalen Hurts. That comes with.
That's what I was going to say. Is it more that you don't like the way Jalen plays, or you don't like the way the coaches?
I don't like the way the coaches.
Okay.
I think they have to, they have to find a better way to persevere. Like, we look at the end of the day, and we look at the yardage, and we look at Saquon, and early in the game, they didn't even use Saquon that much. I thought it was weird. Now, they did get Dallas Goedert involved. Obviously, Devontae was having a pretty good game before his injury. So it wasn't as bad as it was, I would think, against Atlanta, even though technically they scored more points against Atlanta. It seemed to be more torturous. At least they moved the football somewhat effectively at times, and just made mistakes in key situations. But I just don't like the way they play without A.J. Brown. And I say it all the time. If you lose your best player, you're not replacing him. But I see teams all across this league. We talk about the attrition. L.A. Rams, I got to look at that game when I'm done here. I don't know how they won that game, but they don't have anybody. They don't have Puka Nacua. They don't have Cooper Kupp. They don't have half their offensive line. And they're beating one of the best teams in football late in the game. I don't know. I see it all the time where teams persevere a little bit better. Everything seems to be difficult for the Eagles. And when you talk about this offensive line, and they lost 2 offensive linemen, and Tyler Steen specifically, I think, did a really good job coming in from Mekhi Becton. And I think Fred Johnson did a nice job of that word, persevering. So I don't know. I can't even put my finger on it. I just don't like the way they play when the A.J. Brown's not on the field. I don't like it. It just seems it seems difficult. Everything seems difficult, more difficult than it should be.
Yeah, I mean, is there some of that that's baked in though, John? Like, are we always going to be disappointed to it in some regard because you're losing AJ Brown? I mean, I get it. Maybe
Well, like, why are you running that route that resulted in the interception without AJ
Yeah.
Brown? And if you are running it, why are not running it to Johnny Wilson? And maybe it's obviously, but then you say, well, he's not going to be your first progression, which I get. So dump it for the week. Go about it some other way. That's the kind of stuff I'm talking about.
So it's really more on the play scheme. Like when you lose a player like AJ Brown, you got to factor that in. You got to understand your personnel is different. You draw up,
exactly. Exactly.
Right.
So you saw the best route that won you the game. Why not more of that?
By the way, I did go back and watch that play. It was 3 defenders who collided. There was 1 dude on Dotson and 2 dudes were covering Dallas Goedert.
Yeah, that was
and both of them collided into the guy covering Dotson.
That happened
3
here.
Saints defenders and it get taken out of the play, and that's why Goedert went for 61 yards.
If that happened here, yeah, people would be losing their minds. But yeah, I mean, I don't know, and we'll see it again next week, I assume. Hopefully, Devontae can get back.
Yeah, I'm
through the protocol.
We'll see.
Because then you're really up against it because you're not going to have Britton and AJ, I guess, is in the equation. From my standpoint, because of the buys coming up after this week, I just think they're going to give him the extra week. But maybe, if Devontae's unable to play, maybe you got to push it a little bit. Who knows how we'll have to see how that shakes out. But if they don't have AJ Brown, and they don't have Devontae Smith, prepare for ugliness.
I'm going to take this second here to crush Derek Carr because I was critical of Jalen last week for turning the ball over at the end of the game when you need 15 or 20 yards to get yourself in field goal range to potentially win the football game. Well, Derek Carr made the same exact mistake yesterday. He forced that ball down the field. Reed Blankenship made a great interception. So it was a little different scenario. But, I mean, I think he was already at the 40-yard line. So he needs, 20, 25, 30 yards there. He's got plenty of time still on the clock. And he forced the ball up the field, with 50 seconds left. And
I'm not defending Derek Carr because I don't think.
No, I know you're not. I just wanted to take the moment to crush him because
I don't remember. I don't think Jalen was under the kind of duress. He was under duress, but not the kind of duress Derek Carr was under. I mean, Brandon Graham was bearing down on him.
Yeah.
And so was Jalen Carter and even Bryce Huff. I tend to turn the page pretty quickly. I don't believe Jalen was getting hurried, but not to that level on his. But yeah, it's still a bad decision by Derek Carr. Live to play another down. You got another down, you're in a position to where you only need to get, you don't need to get into, a touchdown is not a necessity. So yeah, it's a bad decision by Derek Carr.
Yep, no doubt. John, I want to ask your opinion moving to the defensive side of the ball. We've already beat up on Bryce Huff pretty good. That's going to be a theme that I think is going to, continue to evolve here in the season. We're going to be following that closely. Just, John, 18 snaps yesterday. I mean, holy mackerel. But we'll get there. What was your take on Vic Fangio yesterday and the way his defense bounced back and just the kind of game he called?
Yeah. They were great. But I really think when you got a guy dominating like Jalen Carter dominated, it makes it easier for everybody. I mean, he wrecked the game. They couldn't block him. They and when you can't block people, you can't play offense. And the few times they did, like Chris Olave, the Eagles couldn't do a thing with Chris Olave down the field. Derek Carr had no time to get him down the field for the most part. When he did, the rare times he did, it was a big play, big reception. Yeah, to me, it was a complete Jalen Carter game. And Zach Bond played well, as I mentioned, and Reed played well, and continue to love the Quinyon Mitchell and his advancement week to week. Jordan Davis was better. N'Kobe was better. A bunch of guys were better, but it all stemmed from the foundation of Jalen Hurts, Jalen Carter's dominance. He was the player of the game to me on both sides of the football.
Yeah, I think he was. Yeah, I think he was the
And you're
highest.
talking about a 170-yard day from a tight end and 100 and whatever yards from Saquon Barkley.
150 plus when you count receiving yards.
And I think Jalen Carter was the player of the game, overall player of the game.
Impressive day for Jalen Carter, no doubt. Impressive day from Dallas Goedert and Saquon Barkley, Jalen Carter. Those were really the three big guys yesterday. What was your thoughts on Quinyon Mitchell yesterday? I mean, I thought he made a couple huge plays. He got picked on a little bit, but he's a rookie. He's going to get better. And
growing pains. I said, look at what Kansas City did 2 years ago. Just let him play. Let him play. He'll get better. He's got this mentality. He's going to make some mistakes, but he'll get better as the year goes on. People are going to pick on him right up until they don't pick on him, and they figure out, this kid's pretty good. And you're going to get beaten in this league. I mean, people think Slay can't play. It's one of the best corners of his generation. And you see him get beat by Drake London. He's washed. You see it constantly. It's going to happen with Quinyon Mitchell, but he's got the mental toughness to handle it. And I think he's going to be a really good player, but that doesn't mean he's not going to have hiccups in coverage in this league. Again, Chris Olave, he's going to struggle with him. And that's where you need the help of rush and cover and rush. You need the help of the rush, and the Eagles got a bunch of it from Jalen Carter and making Derek Carr very uncomfortable and speeding him up. And that's the key. Not going to get a lot of sacks against that team, so you have to speed them up. And then I'd like to make mention of Reed Blankenship, because he's the best player on this team that nobody knows is a good player.
Yeah, milk check.
Yeah. Milk check is not sour today. Tremendous player.
Yeah, he played good. I mean, he's continued to play good. He's one of those dudes that's been pretty reliable, when everything else is not going. So, John, here's a tweet. You just talked about Jalen Carter and how well he played yesterday. And I don't know the full source of this, but here's a tweet from Thomas Peterson. Jalen Carter is in week 3 earned the highest grade of any defensive tackle this year, and the grade was 93.5. I'm not sure if that's PFF or next gen stats or whatever it is, and put whatever stock you want in the grading, but it's very obvious he had a dominant game yesterday, and is that a PFF grade, John? 93.5? Does that sound like
it? Sounds like it. They usually don't get them out this early. I'll check if they're out.
I'm a little confused, but I mean, nonetheless, that's where I'm seeing it. So we'll see.
But yeah, you don't need any grading system to, if you watch the game, to say, "Oh, that guy was pretty good today." But yeah, I don't, I'll know later today, if, that's a PFF grade. I assume it is. It sounds like a PFF grade, but
yeah, we'll see if they change or they come out more. Cause you're right. That seems to be early for a PFF grade, but anyway,
yeah, they do have, it hasn't been, basically, the grades are under review, so they go through a different process, but the early grade is up. It's a 93,
and then it might go up even higher after they review the tape. John, I said,
and by the way, 2 players over 90, which would be blue chip, but they get the blue grade. Reed Blankenship was the other one.
Yeah. It's a pretty impressive stuff. I'm telling you, I turned on the game last night on my iPad on the NFL Plus app, and I'm watching this thing, and I'm just like, Jalen Carr. I mean, I knew it during the game, but sometimes when you watch it back a second time, you really get to see, and I'll watch the all 22 and that comes out. But Jalen Carter he was destroying guys. Yeah, I mean, they had no chance at blocking him. So it was very obvious he played that good, and he obviously made his presence very known yesterday. John, next topic, and we talked about Jalen Hurts a little bit at the open here, but here's a guy I respect a lot, and we talked about it a little bit. Ray Didinger today was on WIP. He spoke about Jalen Hurts, and his quote was, "He's throwing end zone interceptions like every week. You just can't win that way. They pulled it out yesterday, but you need him to play better. Ultimately, he finds a way to win, but the QB has to play better, more consistent football." I said I thought Jalen was great yesterday, with the exception of those 2 plays. Agree or disagree with Ray Didinger there?
Well, I told you I don't put that end zone interception on Jalen Hurts. I don't. But he's talking about the overriding point, which has been a theme. Like if you go back to the Green Bay game, I mean that was a disastrous, and I criticized him, throw into the end zone and people trying to defend it. There is no defense of it. None. So in this case, I think there's quite a few defenses to it. In the fact that I thought it was a poor route by Devontae. I thought it was a poor decision by Kellen Moore to run that route at in that particular spot of the game, because it's a trust route. And you have to trust that the wide receiver is going to be there and do what he's supposed to do. And at the worst case scenario, if he has to play defensive back, play defensive back. But yeah, so I think that's for that particular interception. I think it's unfair to heap a lot of criticism on Jalen Hurts. However, a lot of times it is not. So it depends on which interception. That one, no, I can't. I think if anybody's being fair, you got to look at other people before you get to Jalen Hurts.
That's fair. No doubt about it. John, we've got 10 minutes left in the show today. Here, I do want to hit a couple super chats because I forgot to get to them. So thank you all for the super chats. No doubt about it. I forgot to hit a couple, so I'll get through them now. Suplex, what was Becton's injury, John?
Finger.
Okay.
Yeah. So we'll see. But Tyler Steen played very well. Typically when Mekhi plays with a big brace on his knee, when he left in training camp, he usually had something to do with his knee. But it was a finger, and evidently couldn't push off very well. So I assume it won't be long term. Typically, offensive linemen will brace that thing up if they have to and play, but we'll see how it shakes out.
Yeah, so we'll see you there. Good super chat there from Suplex. Thank you, brother. F Body Guy says, win's a win, but these close games are definitely giving 2023 vibes. I need to see this team operate on all sides of the ball. It's a fair point. I mean, and a lot of people got upset when there was criticism of that team at 10-1, and then you ultimately saw some of the problems come to fruition late in the year. Your thoughts on that super chat, John?
I mean, most games are close games in the NFL. I would say this week, the Jets, it started on Thursday night. Vikings crushed the Texans. I'm just looking at the scores. Broncos destroyed the Buccaneers. Packers, Titans, Panthers, Raiders, Seahawks, Dolphins. This is a rare week in the NFL where you had some distance between teams. The NFL sends out these PR things every week, and they talk about the close games every week, almost every single week. It is a very parity-driven league, so you're going to have a lot of close games. So that's baked into it. I don't know, 2023 vibes, because they were 10-1. If they get to 10-1, then we could start talking about it. I don't get 2023 vibes at all because I think they're growing right now and they're going to have some more hiccups and they're not going to be 10-1. But what did 10-1 get you last year? If they grow and get better and they're playing their best football late in the season, that's what you want. Because they're going to make the playoffs. I mean, nothing's guaranteed because
they're going to make them. Dallas just keeps dropping.
This is a bad division. And if Dallas is not relevant, I mean, they're going to win the division, barring an injury to the quarterback. And they might even win it with an injury to the quarterback. That's how bad this division is. Because I think Kenny could win some games, but Kenny Pickett. So when they hit the playoffs, are they playing well? That to me is bigger than you got to win every game. They're not going to win every game. They're not. You see some of the holes. You see some of the tremendous adversity they must face from week to week, according to Nick Sirianni.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, be prepared. It's not going to be 10-1. So I don't think you're going to get 2023 vibes.
Next super chat from F Body, same guy. Appreciate you, F Body, for your 2 super chats today. He says, to be fair to Nolan, he didn't really play last year, so I consider this his first year. Who's out there for Howie to even pick up? Nobody's out there from the pick up. Nobody's out there from the pick up.
Nobody's giving up relevant edge rushers.
Yeah, and what about the year? What about the point to Nolan? This is really his first year. I don't know if I agree with that really at all.
Oh, well, he didn't play a lot last year because he didn't.
Yeah, I know, but I mean,
he didn't earn playing time.
Right, you're still in the NFL where you're learning the systems and you're getting acclimated and all those things.
No, I'm agreeing with you. No, I mean, if he earned playing time, there was a role for him. He didn't seize it. So no, I'm not saying, oh, he didn't play last year. He didn't play last year because they didn't feel he was ready to play a lot. So, but he's been better. Hasn't shown up yet. Boy, they got a lot of good grades, man. A lot of good grades. I'm trying to pull it up again. Trying to pull up what Nolan got. And again, it's early, but let's see. Defense. Jalen Carter, Reed Blankenship, Zach Bond got a good grade, as he should have. Brandon got a good grade. Quinion got a good grade. Kobe, Morrow, Slay, Sweat, Maddox. Nolan was okay. He was average. He had bad marks for tackling, which is no surprise. That seems to be pretty consistent. They got a lot of good grades, both offensively and defensively, at least from early indications. Dallas Goedert, obviously, Saquon. Tyler Steen got a tremendous grade, as he should have. Cam Jurgens, Jordan, Devontae, Britton, before he got hurt and limited snaps, Jalen. Fred did okay, as I expected. Landon, a little bit worse than I expected, but he had the big splash block. And that, it's more about consistency. So Grant Calcaterra had a rip. I should have mentioned that. He was playing poorly. He was getting thrown around in the blocking game. So the guys who didn't play well were Paris Campbell, Jahan Dotson, and Johnny Wilson, basically.
Paris Campbell doesn't look like he's going to be much of an impact on this team at all. Surprised to hear Jeff Kerr say that. But Brian Pumper checks in, John. He says, are we going to talk about how Jalen Hurts keeps testing all pro safeties? The guy thinks he's attacking Nate Allen back there. Smart QBs at least look it off. Well, Pumper, I'll push back. I mean, did you watch
Nate Allen taking strays?
Yeah, taking a strays. But did you watch the night game? I mean, Patrick Mahomes threw a touchdown in the red
He
zone.
always
Right?
throws an interception to Justin Simmons.
Yeah, but
always.
still, I mean, it's going to happen. It's not something you can just.
It's not
Yeah, I
perfect.
get it. It's the turnovers are an issue, but I don't think that's
Why
the
does
right way to do it.
everybody have a problem? I mean, look at that route. And again, you could probably say this twice a year about Devontae. It was a terribly run route, which is extremely rare for Devontae Smith. So put all the context on it you want. But why is that on Jalen Hurts? How can he make the guy run the route he's supposed to run? Yeah. I mean, I'm the first. It's weird because I had people defending him for the interception in the end zone. Oh, if AJ didn't slip. No, bullshit. He wasn't getting to that ball. That was a brutal throw across his body to the middle of the field with Jair Alexander looming. Talk about safeties. What about big time corners? That is a brutal decision. Yesterday, no. Only if you saw the crappy route before it happened, which I doubt.
Yeah, I thought he bounced back well yesterday, so I didn't want to beat him up. I mean, you take out those 2 plays, he had a near perfect game, so I'm not going to beat him up too much. Prince Swayze checks in. Yes, that is my issue with this team. We rely too heavily on analytics for our game plan, and we don't adjust to what the game is.
What they rely on for their game plan. I always love this because I don't know. How do you know? I mean,
that's the assumption now.
Yeah, well, assumptions are assumptions. They don't rely on the free. I've talked to Alec Hallaby 100 times. He'll tell me, more coaches don't listen to him than do. But I don't know where people get this stuff. I really don't. I don't know. They rely too much on analytics for their game plan. Like it's a stipulated fact. Maybe they do, but I don't know. And I'm pretty sure if I don't know, there aren't many other people that know other than Nick Sirianni, who flat out says that he doesn't give a shit about analytics and does his own studies. I know Vic doesn't give a shit. I know that 100%. He does not care about analytics. And he says, I have my own analytics. And he's open to people who give him information and he'll use it as he sees fit. So I don't know where that comes from, but I hear it a lot. And I'm not picking on Prince. I hear it a lot. And it's nobody has that information. Certainly no fan has that information. But I can tell you from talking to Alec Hallaby, who has, now he's the assistant GM, so he's got a far bigger job. But no, it's just a small piece of the puzzle. Small, and I would say very small piece of the puzzle.
Great show today, everybody. Appreciate all of our viewers in the chat. Great stuff from John McMullen, the #1 Eagles beat reporter here on Birds 365. Appreciate all his work covering this game. Appreciate everybody in the chat. Hit that like button, everybody, if you enjoyed the show today. It's a Victory Monday. I didn't think we had too many overreactions today, so I don't want to call it an overreaction Monday, but I thought it was a Victory Monday. Birds get out of there.
Overreactions could go either way. They could be good and they could be bad. Overreactions.
Yeah. Well, John, can you call me out for any overreactions I had today?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think I I thought I tried to temper the overreactions. Look, I thought the defense showed great things. Maybe if I overreact, it's that I think the defense is going to be all right. Now it's one game. They got to do that every week, but I thought they showed great promise yesterday, which was definitely my biggest takeaway from the game.
Well, yeah, the defense played really well. And a lot of guys deserve credit, but it all starts with Jalen Carter, who they could not block. And if Jalen Carter plays like that on a consistent basis, that's when you have the all-pro difference-making defender who changes everything. There's no evidence he can do that at this stage of his career from week to week, but if he gets to that level, you see he's got the talent to do it. If he gets to that level of consistency, the Eagles defense is going to be really good. Not good, really good.
Really good. Yep.
But we got to see if he can get to that level of consistency.
No doubt. Johnny Mac, great show today. Just your final thoughts on this victory Monday. Birds moved to 2-1, beat the Saints 15-12 in a pretty wild game. Just your final thoughts here on the show today.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'll take one more shot at Nick with the adversity. They're one snap away from being 3-0. And then maybe you do have the 2023 vibes. They're not playing that well, but they find ways to win games. Next week's going to be interesting because Tampa played so poorly this week, and then you get to the early bye. But I think they're in good shape. And the beauty of being in the NFC East this year, I think, is you do have some time to figure it out. You're not going to be battling back and forth, it looks, with Dallas. Maybe they fix things. Maybe they don't. I don't like what they're doing defensively. And if you have that luxury of sort of being able to grow without a ton of pressure, that might set you up late in the season a little bit better than perhaps when you got to fight and claw to stay ahead and win every game. And, you'd love to get the number 1 seed, but I don't think that's going to be in the equation this year. So I think you'll have time to grow, and maybe that less pressure will create better opportunities down the road.
Great stuff, Johnny Mac, today. Appreciate everybody in the chat. Hit that like button on your way out. Johnny Mac, we'll talk to you tomorrow on Birds 365. One more shameless plug. I launched a new Twitter, everybody. Please go give me a follow at Real Zander, and follow Johnny Mac as well at JF McMullen. So read our work over there on Twitter. Stay tuned. We'll be back tomorrow from 8 to 10 a.m. on Birds 365. Coming up later today, the National Football Show from 2 to 6 p.m. I'll be on at 3:30, and I will be bringing the heat to Big Sills. So stay tuned for that, and then stay tuned on the channel for a bunch of clips that will come out from the shows, from the post-game show, from Birds 365, and from the National Football Show. So thanks, everybody, for all the support, all of our super chats today. Johnny Mac, great show, man. We'll talk to you tomorrow morning.
All right. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Thanks for listening. Catch you tomorrow on Birds 365.